So to some degree, things are not going particularly well for the Trump family right now. I mean, they're still rich, sure, and they're still privileged and they're still powerful, but there are criminal investigations going on into their businesses. Trump's social media reach has been replaced by a blog that nobody reads, etc. And now Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr., two of Donald Trump's kids, are doing a sort of pity me, pity us media tour. And it's just hilarious and pathetic. I don't know that I've ever seen a family that is so privileged constantly claim to be the biggest victims of everything and everyone. And I think it all comes down from Trump regularly claiming nobody's been treated as unfairly as me and blah, 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 blah. So check out some of these clips. Here is Eric Trump last night on Sean Hannity's Fox News propaganda show. And in this clip, Eric Trump whines, we just get all these subpoenas and they're treating us so terribly. And then he just starts telling lies. See if you can pick up on the lies. And I know that his mouth moving is a signal that he's lying, but there's a specific lie that he tells here.
Investigating his zero experience son being paid millions, and all of these other instances now where he's been caught red-handed lying about knowing anything about Hunter's foreign business dealings.
Sean, I agree completely. Listen, I'm on the receiving end of it every single day. My father gets subpoena after subpoena. We do as a family. They attack us. They go after us for doing absolutely nothing wrong. We gave up business when my father went to the White House. They did the exact opposite. When Joe Biden became vice president, Hunter Biden got into business. But yet, every single day, my family is attacked, and they look for any comma that's out of place, and the prosecutorial misconduct in this country is out of control. But yet, because we're Republicans, they attack us and they do absolutely nothing to the other side.
Yeah, so pity me, pity us. But he says we gave up our business when Trump became president. No, you didn't. Donald Trump made $1.6 billion during his 4 years as president from his private businesses. Ivanka and Jared Kushner made hundreds of millions. I believe it was 640 million, if I recall correctly, from the family business. What are you talking about? They literally opened the Trump DC hotel blocks from the White House while Trump was running for president in 2016. And then as soon as Trump was inaugurated, foreign leaders would come to Trump's DC hotel and stay there when they would go visit Trump or visit other diplomats or American officials in order to ingratiate themselves with the Trump White House. What kind of fantasy world is this guy living in that not only he portrays himself as a huge victim, he also just tells lies about the things that they've done and not done. Then last night, it wasn't just Eric Trump with Sean Hannity. It was also Donald Trump Jr. with Tucker Carlson on Fox News. And in this clip, Don Jr. says, hey, the fact that my dad is being investigated, this is what you expect in so-called banana republics, not in the United States.
But if this was going on in a banana republic, we'd be outraged. When it's going on in one of the largest states in America, everyone seems to be silent on it. And
so there's two things here. First of all, is it not possible for Don Jr. to make a political point without using a pejorative term about other countries? Like, I'm not saying Banana Republic is like the N-word. Banana Republic, it describes a country that's less developed with political instability, often an economy that depends on exporting one thing like a banana or a particular mineral, a rare earth mineral, a conflict mineral, whatever the case may be. So it's not the N-word. It's not calling a Jewish person the K word, don't get me wrong, but it's a pejorative, it's a derogatory term, and he just can't seem to make any statement without kind of using a gross term about someone or some other country. But the funny thing about the comparisons to developing nations is that the real analogy between Trump and developing nations is the one we made during the Trump era, which is Trump's authoritarianism, Trump's disdain for freedom of the press, Trump's comfort with cronyism and nepotism and corruption and slush funds and all of this stuff. That's what we are used to seeing in the corrupt countries of the developing world, often run by authoritarians or even authoritarian, more developed nations. You get the picture. So they seem to stumble across the fact that there are things happening here that have an analogy in other parts of the world, but they just get the analogy completely wrong. It's not the investigation of Trump that makes us like a so-called banana republic. It was Trump as an authoritarian buffoon as president that made us like all of these other countries whose leaders Trump admired, by the way, people like Duterte and Kim Jong-un and Putin and the others. In any case, Eric and Don Jr. making the rounds, claiming to be victims. And if anybody gets charged in these probes, I mean, listen, if the Manhattan DA charges somebody, Trump or other Trump associates, if the New York AG probe leads to charges, we have so much of this insanity to look forward to. If there are any charges brought in those investigations, it will be these two, Don Jr. and Eric, completely unmoored from reality, claiming everybody's just being so mean and unfair and everything's just a scam and a witch hunt. They stole everything they could while in the White House. They stripped the country down to the studs. And now they're saying, we did everything right. And they won't leave daddy alone. In some sense, they're not used to facing consequences. So it probably is very confusing because of the attention that Trump brought on himself by running for president and becoming president. The charity was investigated and ultimately had to pay a fine and be shut down. Now there are multiple investigations. They just don't like their actions having consequences. For a long time, Trump was ensconced up in Trump Tower in his office or penthouse or whatever, and people were paying attention to him, but not like they started to when he ran for president. And even losing the presidency after having arguably the most disastrous presidential term in modern political history, that's a consequence. And they're simply not used to that. They're used to being the bullies, and there may now actually be some consequences. If you ever feel like you just don't have enough time to read all the books you want to read, you have to check out one of my favorite apps called Blinkist. Blinkist takes thousands of popular nonfiction books and distills each one down into an ebook or audiobook that you can get through in just 15 minutes, where you're getting all the key takeaways from the book. Just imagine how you'll be able to expand your horizons and knowledge by being able to soak up all of the important insights from 10 different books in an afternoon. Obviously, it's perfect for exposing yourself to a new book you otherwise wouldn't have time for, or you can use it to revisit a book you've already read, or use it to preview a book before you buy the full version and read it. I recently read A Brief History of Time, of course, by the great Stephen Hawking. This is a book that I have been aware of for so long, and other things got in the way, and it was fantastic to check it out on Blinkist. Blinkist has books on politics, philosophy, science. They have 27 different nonfiction categories, and a subscription is only about $8 a month, and you get the entire library. But you can try it totally free and get 25% off a subscription when you go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. I've put the link right underneath this video.